welcome to the Good Endeavor Short-Term Rental Show. My name is Mark McDaniel. This is episode 7. We're very excited today to have an old colleague of mine and friend, Holly George. Holly was very successful in an IT sales career, and she's been very successful in a property management business that she now owns in Killington, Vermont. Welcome to the show, Holly. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, you're definitely welcome. So let the audience know just a little bit about you, who you are, kind of where you came from, and a little bit about your company.
Sure, yeah. So my background is actually in engineering, and I originally started my career working for IBM in Manhattan, of all places. So I thought I wanted to go to Boulder, Colorado, and I ended up in Manhattan, New York. So being back in Killington has kind of come full circle. But I went from IBM to some small tech startups they kind of got gobbled up by larger firms. And that's how you and I met. I think we were both at smaller tech startups and got acquired by bigger ones. So it's fun to meet a bunch of people along the way.
That's right. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, Holly and I met, I guess it was 2015 or 16 when we were acquired, and you had already been acquired. And so you, within the past few years, have kind of transitioned out of that world into the property management space. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Sure.
And what you've
Sure. So first of all, it's just been the best journey ever. So I feel very blessed to be on this path. But I was always a skier. We started out with a bunch of friends, actually IBM friends, going up to Killington, Vermont in our very early 20s, having a great time. And we really got to know the area. And, you know, being an engineer, I would do the math and be like, well, we were spending a lot of money to rent these places. We could buy a place and share it. So I was lucky enough to be able to get, a ski house up there. And then life progressed, right? I got married, had kids. So the amount of beer consumption changed slightly. But it was always great to have the ability to rent it out short term because it always helped us afford it, right? And offset the costs of having a second vacation home. So as my kids got older and the tech company sold, basically it gave me the opportunity to really follow my passion, which was in real estate design. So it just was really lucky timing that it all came together.
Wow. How's that? That's so interesting. Sales and engineering, IT, and how that translates. What do you think the connection is there, or is it just a desire and willingness to work hard and build something?
That's a great question. I think, in my former job, it was a lot of managing customer expectations and really just helping people. And being an engineer in sales, I came at it from a perspective of it had to be correct. Engineers are taught if you screw up, the bridge falls down and people die. So it was maybe a bit extreme, but I think it helped me a lot with success in IT because I took it very seriously and I made sure the solutions that, we put together for clients would absolutely work. And I think they trusted that integrity. And I think that trust and that integrity helps even in short-term rentals, right? It's the concept of treat other people the way you'd like to be treated. So none of our homes go out if I wouldn't stay in them, right? So the quality has to be there, right? The linens, I'm very particular. The linens have to be very nice and clean and stain-free. The pillows have to be super comfortable. It's just, hopefully we're building a brand where people start to trust Killington Mountain Homes is this wonderful experience, right? And our clients that work with us also trust that consistent experience that we deliver to their guests. So I think it's actually quite similar. For me, logically, it's just you're very consistent with your product and that builds trust and that builds, repeat customers, and loyalty is the key to success, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you just have a heart for hospitality, which is really what any business endeavor is. We always say we like to bless our guests and bless our owner. And so it sounds like you guys
nice. Yeah, I like that.
actually doing those same things. Um, yeah, so you guys had your own properties, right? And then did you build the property? Did you ever use another property management company? And did you build your property management company kind of on the backs of your own properties?
So when I very first started out, like when I had small kids, we definitely used a different property management group, and it was a different time. Airbnb and VRBO weren't really there. So it was, you kind of would contact the local realtor and they would connect you and, you know. So I had tons on my plate. So I certainly didn't, I was not very involved in that phase.
Yeah.
Starting out, for a very short period of time, used a third party, and we got 0 bookings, which was the best blessing ever because I took it back. And I'm so grateful I had that bad experience right off the bat, because it was really a wake up call to just, you know what, I can do this a lot better myself. And I'm so glad that happened.
Man, that is such a great attitude, because kind of having this idea of gratitude in like all situations, no matter good or bad, like I'm so thankful that happened to me, because if it didn't, then I wouldn't be where I am. I love that.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you guys started out with your own, and you've grown, obviously, and you've grown to, I think when last we spoke, you were like 24.
I think so. Yeah. We have 3 more coming online soon. So it keeps growing, which is great.
Yeah. And so we're in a relatively small market.
Yeah.
I would ask, like, just there's folks out there who are interested in starting their own property management business, or there are folks out there who have vacation rentals and they're trying to figure out, like, who do I use for a property manager? And what's this going to be like if I try to do it on my own? And what are some of the questions I need to ask a potential property manager? Like, there's both sides of the coin. Like, how hard is it going to be on my own? And if I decide property management, what are some of the things I should ask?
Sure.
Give us a little glimpse into the day to day. Like, what has been like your most difficult guest experience?
Yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, it's extremely rare. I think people get really nervous about someone's going to come trash my house, and I completely understand that. It's my home as well. We are right there with our clients, right? We get that fear, but it's really never come to fruition, thank God. But we certainly have had an occasional rare bad experience, and they tend to follow a similar pattern. It's either kind of you have a scammer or you have a party. And rather than go into one particular example, I'll kind of talk about the defenses we have in place to help mitigate those situations and how they have. So I did draw on my tech background to help with this issue. And what we've done is we've built layers of tech defense against both of these scenarios. So the first thing we do is we have a minute device in all of our units, and that does noise monitoring. It doesn't record voices, it records decibels. And that'll send us alerts if there's, if it's just too loud past quiet hours. The second thing we have is we use a tool called Breezeway, but I think there's a bunch of tools out there. But it's a pre-game strategy. So our cleaners take pictures of the entire property when they're done, and that goes straight to the cloud. And Breezeway is an application that VRBO and Airbnb recognize, and they really like it. So that helps us against the scammers that will say, oh, it was disgusting, it was dirty. And again, this has happened maybe twice in, 3,000,
Right.
4,000 stays. So, but right away that just corrects that misinformation, right? Because our data is uploaded straight to the cloud, and, there's our proof. It was perfectly clean before, the bad guest arrived. Another layer of defense is our external cameras. So if you have the occasional, person who brings way too many people, you check the cameras, you can count how many come in. If it's over, you have to take corrective action. Again, that's extremely rare. But, it's a bummer. You have to deal with it, and you remove the guests, unfortunately, but you can't obviously allow more than, what you're allowed to have to stay at your house. I would say the last wall of our defense, which we have not had to use yet and hopefully won't, but again, it's good to have good defense, is just our legal structure. So the way that our properties are set up, are I think, very risk adverse. So we try to have layers of defense against bad guests. We also have insurance. We use air cover with Airbnb. So, when we have to, we use it. But again, it's extremely rare, which is good.
Those are all such great points because there's a cost to all that. So obviously, there's an inflection point where that makes sense to invest in all those things because those things aren't cheap and but they're totally worth it. And so I think it kind of goes hand in hand with like a bad guest experience potentially. And, am I really cut out to do this? Because, you might be really cut out to do it, but just know to do it right, there is a little bit of an initial investment that you would have to make. It's not entirely zero overhead.
Correct.
Right.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, you're just making me think. There's also the potential, because we are at scale, there's a lot of, and this probably happens more frequently, there's potential bad guests interactions where we are able to make it right because of scale. So for example, we've had floods, we've had wells go dry, we've had, you name it, right? When you have 24 houses in extreme climates, things will go wrong. And having multiple units has been really great to allow us on those rare occasions to shift clients from one property to the other. And we're not bothering Airbnb with it. We're not bothering VRBO. We're keeping the guests happy. Normally we can upgrade guests and they're delighted. We've had guests go from a 1-bedroom to a $1 million 6-bedroom, and then you never get any complaints about that. So
they're like, this is the best vacation ever.
Yeah. So I think that also helps is having a strong property manager will mitigate a lot of those potential bad guest situations. Some other examples, a microwave goes bad. We are able to give you a new microwave within 30 minutes and we just blow people's minds, right? Because we're local. So we can do that. Yeah, we had a guest complain about, a very expensive booking. They complained about the grill and it was legitimately older. We showed up in an hour with the $900 brand new Weber grill and they just couldn't believe it. Like they just an hour later, there's a brand new grill here. Right. So, we get great reviews and that's the level of service that we try to deliver all the time. And I think if I was remote and not local, I would imagine that there's a lot of stays that I could imagine would have been much more difficult where, you can't rely on your cleaner necessarily to do troubleshooting when a pilot light goes out, for example. That just happened last week, right? A pilot light goes out on the water heater. The cleaner's not going to be able to fix that. And it's going to be real difficult to get a plumber, at least in my area. So being local and having a local maintenance team makes a huge difference. And a lot of those things that you wouldn't think about. So I would consider that, I guess, to your original point of, do you self-manage or do you go with a property manager? Those are a lot of things go bump, and it's how are you gonna react to that to give the guest the best experience?
Yeah. And you've got a great background because you come from the investor standpoint too. So you kind of know if I had a property manager, I would want them to treat my guests like this.
Yeah.
And I'm not property managing because I'm remote and I can't treat my guests like that. And I don't have the time to do it.
Right.
So those are great points. Like, and you've probably akin to staying at nice hotels where if something is broke and bump in the night, like they're going to fix it.
Right.
And so I think that's what gives this industry a little bit of a bad rap.
Yeah.
Is that it's not quite hotel-like and there seem to be just some inconsistencies.
Yes.
And so folks like your company and our company, we're trying to create these consistencies and these brands that they can count on So you can get this repeatable stay. Like, man, no matter which house I'm staying in of Killington mountain properties, like no matter which of their houses I stay in, I can get this consistent experience
Right.
and expect a certain level of service,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly, you nailed it. That's exactly what we're trying to build with our brand. And the experience is just, again, I look at things through our guest size, and that's what I would be worried about, right? I have 4 kids, and what if the pilot light does go out, right? I mean, who's going to come fix that? So, yeah, I think having that, local reaction time of both, obviously the cleaners, but also the maintenance staff, I think makes a huge difference.
And your SOPs. So all your employees know, hey, this is kind of the expectation and this is operating procedures for if this goes out. Because you know what? Things break in my house and things break in other people's houses. So things happen. And so it's how you react.
Right.
I think you make a great point.
Yeah. And then we try to have the maintenance to make sure they don't break, right? So we have that experience and that depth of knowledge to know and advise for our clients, like which things you should upgrade and which, is not going to give you the return on investment. So I think that kind of knowledge is really helpful to our investors. So
yeah. So from an investor standpoint, say I'm an investor in Killington and I'm evaluating property managers. What is what is your perception on what investors, you're an investor. And so what kind of makes you guys stand out from your competition? What are like a couple things that investors really like about you guys?
Sure. So Killington Mountain Homes, I'm proud to say, we are by far the top rated property management firm in the area. And I always tell people, look at the reviews, like look at what our guests are saying and read what the guests are saying about other managers, right? I mean, we're at 4.97 out of 5, which is, I'm really proud of that. That's a lot of hard work. And that's a lot of being very responsive and communicative and just making sure, the door locks work, right? And we have backups to the backups, even for the door lock. So every element of the experience is tested and tried and true, right? We have guest books, electronic guest books that they get before they arrive. And they love that because it gets them excited. They know what to pack. It has directions. If there's anything quirky about a house, it explains it. So there's a lot of those additional elements that you get. Other things we try to do, again, most of my clients, my investor clients, are exactly like I was when I had small kids, right? They're folks that use the house part of the time and then want to rent it out the other part of the time to offset the costs. And I think because I had that life before this one, the experience, I completely get where they're coming from, right? And I found that the other management firms didn't do end to end, right? So like we also have a contracting business at Killington Mountain Homes. So if we need to paint, we can do that for our guests. Like they can say, hey, can you replace the carpet with some, hardwood? We can do that. If we have plumbers and tradespeople that are on, our very short lists, we can be very responsive to our clients from a maintenance perspective, as well as, just everything remotely for our clients is tough, right? So getting new furniture is tough when you're 4 hours away. So we can help, we help with that. We help with assembling it, putting it together, removing the old stuff. So it's a lot less heavy lifting. And I'm not sure the other firms provide that level of deep service. I think they're just doing the marketing and, the cleaning basically. So it's another level.
As an investor, you just want somebody that you can partner with, somebody who cares about your return on investment.
Yeah.
And it seems like so many management companies are more worried about their return on investment. And so we like to say here at the Good Endeavor Short-Term Rental Show that if we focus enough on their outcome, the guest outcome and the owner's outcome, then our outcome will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, 100%.
And so like design services, like, hey, have you ever thought about making a wall really interesting compared to the other walls, making like a focus wall, or changing this bit of furniture, or putting this type of game machine in versus what everybody else has. So those types of suggestions, like people are dying for that feedback. Like, what can I do? It's not like these folks are completely out of money most of the time. They want to make a little bit of investment to get the most ROI, and they just need a partner to help them along the way.
Yep.
And so many folks, I mean, you probably experienced this. They're at the 5-yard line and they're like, man, all I got to do is this punch list of 15 things and this thing will be up and going. I wish there was somebody I could just turn it over to and they would take care of it, get it listed and get it marketed. And it sounds like you guys are that type of partner.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And another thing, I mean, with our clients, because I feel like I retired from the tech industry, I'm definitely being more choosy. Like I want to have a client that I personally like and that they like me. And so far it's been super fun. Like I really like our clients. Like they're smart. They're definitely into it. They're really fun to work with. And it's, you know, we just become better working together, you know, so they have great input. I learn from them. They learn from me. You know, and we're giving each other high fives, right? We're both happy with the success. So I think that matters too, is having clients that are on board with your vision. Because we've had to say no to some folks as well that are just like, I'm not investing a penny. I don't really care. And that doesn't fit our brand, right? If you're not going to be on board with making sure, you know, it's a comfortable stay for the guest, then it's not going to represent our brand. So those aren't real great fits for clients either. So we really do enjoy the clients that we work with, and they've been absolutely wonderful and fun to work with. So
I love that. I love that. That is such a great point. Like in anything, in any business endeavor, to be on the same page and singing from the same sheet of music is super key. So one more question, or a couple more questions. What is somebody wanted to get in this industry? Obviously, we're not talking to anybody who wants to compete with you in Killington. But if somebody wanted to get in this industry, what is kind of one thing that you would recommend? Like what little bit of advice might you give them?
yeah, I would say don't assume that there's going to be, if you're going to go it alone, don't assume that there's one person that's going to like help you through it all as an individual, because as an individual, you will have to assemble a team. So, you know, those are places we struggled, right? Like we went through 3 different bookkeepers. And we thought, oh, well, we have specialized short-term rental bookkeepers. But even then, it was amazing that, you know, it would be like you talk to the salesperson and then you get passed down the chain. And by the time they were doing the work, they were, you know, you had to repeat yourself 17 times. And then the bookkeepers didn't translate that to the accountants, who didn't translate that to the tax people. So we found it was so challenging. We had to really learn ourselves and be that integration point. And we're still not terrific at it, but we have spent most of our learning on the tax and accounting side. It's been definitely a learning curve. So I would say don't underestimate that portion of it. Don't underestimate the insurance side of it. You know, it's tricky for sure. And the legal side, you know, it's very difficult to get advice from one person that weaves together all the different elements. And then you also have to be, you know, a tech integrator, right? If you're going it alone. So there's a lot of tools we use, and, you know, and a lot of money we spend on all of these elements that we can do because we have scale. But it would be tough. I mean, it would be tough to compete against Killington Mountain Homes as an individual, not in the peak season, right? Because it's booked all the time. But in the off season, it would be tough because we have a lot of things that we are doing on top of like what an individual could do. So yeah, I think that
sounds like you've got a lot of protections and scale kind of already built in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for example,
those are things that are often not, those things are hardly ever talked about in this industry. Like, and those would be good questions for homeowners to ask. Like, what are the protections you have built in? So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of
last but not least,
all of it's tough.
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it's hard. Yeah. So last but not least, Holly, what is the best way for folks to reach you or your company?
Oh, well, thanks. If anyone's interested in talking about Killington, I think one of the best investments, I would say, it's actually was never, I thought it would be, it's going to be a 6-bedroom or a 1-bedroom, but it was actually the location was the best thing that ever happened to us. So Killington is really growing. They just got a huge investment for some major infrastructure. The biggest investment ever in Vermont is going into Killington. Wow. Yeah, they're building a huge new base village, which is super exciting, on top of a huge mountain with great snowmaking. So we're thrilled about the future of Killington, and the property values have held very strong and continue to go up. So if there's any interest in looking at that, we are Killington Mountain Homes. Our website is killingtonmountain.com. And I am Holly at killingtonmountain.com. So HOLLY.
Not IE or not I, Y.
Y.
So it sounds like, I know I told you there would only be one more question, but it sounds like Killington potentially is still a really good opportunity from an investment standpoint.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously there's always risks, but I think a lot of the locals are very bullish on the future. All the locals had to vote in for this big investment, and I think it was about a 75% vote to do it. So yeah, the future I think looks very bright in the area. Killington's also done a great job of transitioning to an all-season mountain. So they have world-class mountain biking. So right now we're hosting skiers and bikers at the same time in our properties, as well as having an outdoor pool open. So I love the fact that you can sit at the outdoor pool and look at the crazy skiers coming down the glacier. So it's been a good time.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, Holly, this has been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time with us.
Yeah.
Holly George, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mark.